June the 30th, 2019. As you're looking at the magnetopause model, we saw it yesterday, and we get this from the satellites that orbit in that white dotted line around our planet. I had this question yesterday: how do you convert universal time to where you're at? There's a chart there in the bottom left. On the East Coast, you're 5 hours behind universal time. In other words, it gets midnight 5 hours before it gets universal time 5 hours before it gets midnight on the East Coast. As we come out of the 29th, you're going to see that about 13 hours later than the event yesterday, we had a very similar occurrence. It was not quite as compressed as the compression event we saw yesterday. But guys, again, 30th, we're going into, this is 43 minutes into the morning, what we would call 12:43:35. Now take back 5 hours from that. Something about this image, you're seeing this ring. And guys, it's another video, but I want to do a video about the plasmasphere and how it protects our planet. But again, you're looking at the magnetopause. So you're seeing here, as your time gets into 1 a.m. or 1:15 a.m. universal time, this compression event again happened. Then that rapid expansion. And so again, I looked at the solar wind, nothing. A couple of things is the angle and the burn-off angle that I was noticing on this particular section of this model. Again, the satellites you see in the dotted line are picking this information up and relaying it back to our planet. You can see that there's actually these burn-offs, this radiation is inside that satellite band. You notice that? Not supposed to do that under normal conditions, but it is. And guys, in the last few days, 114 degrees plus in France. Europe's baking. People are dying. You know that, was it 2003, guys, during a different solar minimum, that about 70,000 people died in Europe over a heat wave. But again, into this band where the satellites are, they are picking up an extreme amount of this energy. And you can see the chart on the left. This is the GOES-14 satellite. Your diamond shape is 13. Pyramid shape is South Korean COMS satellite. They're relaying this information back. They're spread out so they can kind of get a good data point. Because that burn off, again, behind this chart is indicative of the angle of which way the wave came. Is it coming straight from the sun to the right, or is it burning off at a different angle? We've seen it before during different events. But guys, this energy and this penetration into our shields is caused by weak shields. So let's look at this same time span, same event, but from a different perspective. We're looking sideways at a much further back, wider angle. You can see the satellites rotating around instead of you seeing it just as if you're looking straight down on the planet. Here you're looking from the side. You're seeing magnetic lines of force, and they're color-coded. You got closed lines, which are supposed to stay closed, really protect the planet. Your polar cap lines, your IMF field lines, which are generated by the sun. Now, there's some events happening here. During this timestamp building up, we're having a lot of gamma radiation penetrate into the lower atmosphere. And when you get this, again, we're coming up on that timestamp. Back it up, coming into after midnight UTC time. You're going to see this pressure build up from the right come in. Right there. Compresses everything. It creates what's called cusp, guys. It's breaks in this closed IMF, radiate lines of force, guys, that protect our planet. They're in the red line. But what happens is that protection breaks down during these events. You see these openings? Those are called cusps, C-U-S-P. And there's extreme amount of, again, this radiation getting into our lower atmosphere. And you see these heat waves. You see the crops burn. They're saying in Europe, guys, it's like a blowtorch. It has nothing to do with global warming. If you read an article about this in mainstream media, they will say we got to have carbon taxes. Where's Al Gore? Has nothing to do with man-made global warming. It's something that you could put every penny that humanity's ever had, and you couldn't change or affect this. It's stupid and it's greedy. And it, again, if you don't understand what carbon tax was set up for, to rip everyone off, Hillary Clinton had a lot to do with it with Al Gore in the beginning, if that tells you anything. But guys, these cusps are dangerous because as they hit us during solar minimum, again, you're seeing it here. Notice it didn't stop on the outside like I showed you before. It is now pushed in because of that opening and a second wave come in. So as you're bombarded, that builds up. Now, again, upper elevations, northern hemisphere, you're going to have longer, cooler winters. But in the southern hemisphere, or excuse me, in the northern hemisphere, but more into the central parts and lower latitudes, you're going to have this heat during the summer because of these gaps and holes and a weak shield. But again, it's in Europe they're saying it's like a blowtorch, guys, and it's hot here in the south. But you can see with the solar wind speed down at normal, even some dips below normal. The only thing you can see here besides that gap that goes through all of these charts is there's some magnetic interference. But notice the gap where it says June 30th coming into midnight right there. That's that point to where the event happened. Now what can happen is the satellites have a sensor, many of them do, that will detect an incoming burst of energy, and they will power down to protect their circuits. That may be what we're seeing there. Another thing that I always try to look at, if we're not seeing solar activity from solar wind, again, solar flares, CMEs, filament releases, what could be causing it? We have two of the gas giants behind us, Jupiter and Saturn. In other words, the Earth is between Jupiter, and Saturn is behind Jupiter, slightly different angle, but the sun is affected. Now, Jupiter has the greatest effect on the sun of anything, because it's binary twin. It's a gas giant just like the sun. As a matter of fact, Jupiter does not orbit the sun like all the other planets do, guys. There's a point outside the sun to where the sun and the Jupiter, their gravity balance at that point, and they both orbit a point outside the sun simply because of the mass of Jupiter. Now, guys, I've said for 5 or 6 years now that the ancients called Jupiter Nibiru. Look it up. I'll notice one other thing, and I'll do a separate video on it, is what's called Bennu, and they started putting this on eyes on the solar system. Notice it's a NASA. OSIRIS-REx is the name of the satellite. OSIRIS-REx, guys. And look at the pyramid symbology here and why they've chosen this particular asteroid. They want to land on it. It has a close orbit to Earth, and they say that it may strike our planet in the 22nd century. And it has the size they need. You can pause this and read more about it. But they want something over 200 meters because it rotates slower. But at 500 meters, you got a 1,640-foot rock. Think about that. And again, they're saying that it has a high probability, last paragraph, of impacting Earth in the late 22nd century. Bennu's size, which is 500 meters, is perfect for what they want to do. Now, going back to the radiation thing, we looked at what possibly could be affecting this energy transfer, and I've done a video that was taken down called the Jupiter Wind. May have to redo that one. But space weather balloon, this is space weather, another link that's always been on our website. And they launch as part of the Earth to Sky Calculus student program in California. They launch these high altitude balloons, and it's very simple. They measure the radiation penetration as it goes up. And it's an 18% increase in the last 4 years. It's a dosage rate. Notice on the left of this channel, of this chart, I'll pull it down, you can see it. But that's the increase. Why? Because the shields have gotten that much weaker. Very good way to measure. But this is just going up until the middle of this year, and they will give us that information as it comes in at the end of the year. Started back in the middle of 2014, up into 2018, 18% increase. And read above, it says, there are studies linking cosmic rays with cardiac arrhythmias and sudden cardiac death in the general population. The sun affects our space weather. It affects Earth's weather, and it affects the human populace. It says the data points in the graph correspond to the peak of what's called the Renninger-Pfotzer maximum, which lies about 67,000 feet above Central California. When cosmic rays crash into the Earth's atmosphere, they produce a spray of secondary particles that is most intense at the entrance of the stratosphere. Why? Because, guys, think about it. As they spread out, it becomes weaker, but you've got a real intense concentration there. It also applies to air travel. This is from March 13th of 2015 until July of 2018. They're still measuring it. They'll just calculate it at the end of this period. But you're looking at dose rates times sea level on the right side of this chart. You see the small airplane flying at 25,000 feet? Guys, you're at 20 times the level of this radiation than you are if you're standing on the ground. You're flying at 40,000 feet. You go from 50, and at sometimes peaking, if you look across the chart in January of 16, at 60 times ground level. Think about that. Now, if you measure it up to where these balloons are going in the stratosphere, it doesn't look like that much of a change. But it is actually going from 75 times the dosage rate to 95 times on this chart. Look as they measure across it. Again, you're down here at around 75 times here. And if you look at where it ends up on the other side, guys, you're up into the mid-90s. So you've got about 90 times the dosage rate, guys, of this radiation at that height. But for you guys that do a lot of flying, think about it, 50 to 60 times your dosage rate below that. But here's your peak at the top, around 95. So 95 times the dose. So that's an increase, guys, over this period of time. But these hot flights, and I'm talking about the center of this chart, guys, that's a lot of radiation at that altitude. And these planes cannot protect you from all of it. They're launching new satellites now to study the Van Allen radiation belt for future space travel, which goes back to how did they make it to the moon the first time, if you understand what I'm saying. But here you can look, it tells you a little bit about it, 40,000 feet, 50 times the dosage rate. So frequent flyers, you could have a lot of cancer problems because of this, even your smaller airplanes that fly lower. But that just tells you what our weak shields are doing, guys. That's what all of this information tells you. It tells you why you're getting these extreme sunburns, even on a cool day with the sun out, and sometimes it doesn't have to be that sunny. And they understand this. You can read it here. It says, why are they intensifying? The main reason is the sun. Solar storm clouds such as CME sweep aside cosmic rays when they pass by the Earth. During solar maximum, CMEs are abundant. Cosmic rays are held at bay. Now, however, the solar cycle is swinging towards solar minimum, allowing cosmic rays to return. Another reason could be the weakening of Earth's magnetic field, which helps protect us from deep space radiation, as they're one and the same. And again, you go to mainstream media, if they mention solar minimum or in the heat, they're talking about man-made global warming, which is a lie. But guys, we're watching it. You watch it. Now, all of these links are on our website at BPEarthWatch.com. Guys, don't forget to go there. My Patriot Supply, who we have as our main sponsor, has a huge sale on their survival food, water filters, and their supplies because they are moving into a new warehouse. Take advantage of it now. The food is great. Everyone that has the Alexa Pure filters, you know the quality in the water, and you can get these filters now in a 4-pack for less than $60 a piece. It's a heads up, guys. We appreciate it. Be safe.